Welcome to Decoded Chats. I'm here with Barbara Ondrisek, and she's the mother of a cat. You're actually running one of successful bots on the web on the chat systems. Can you tell us about your bot, what it is, and what it does?
So I created Meet the Hipster Cat Bot. It's a chatbot that helps you discover the best places, the best venues, like restaurants or coffee shops. Since I always love to play around with new technologies, and Facebook announced on their F8 conference mid of April last year to open their API for bots, the messenger platform for bots. I was eager to try their API, so I created one of the very first chatbots for the Facebook platform, and definitely Austria's first chatbot on Facebook Messenger and on Skype. Should I explain a little bit more about chatbots themselves?
If you want to, I mean, you're the
Yeah,
expert. We're here to ask you questions. So if you want to talk about chatbots a bit more, we're good with that.
yeah, yeah. Just to explain it briefly, a chatbot is a service that enables you to interact with another service or a company through a conversational interface. So it's an interactive program embedded in a platform like the Messenger app. That could be Facebook, Skype, or in the United States, Kik is very popular, or in Asian countries, it's Line. Bots are also referred as virtual assistants or virtual agents or conversational commerce. And lately, I also heard the term conversation as a service, like platform as a service or SaaS, service as a service. And the idea and the opportunity behind chatbots is that there is no huge barrier to use it in contrast to apps. So you don't have to download an app separately, you don't have to publish your app into a bot store, and as a user you don't have to check whether you have enough space on your mobile phone, or maybe to remember your password for the app store and to have a good connection to download it, and so on, because for chatbots, they live in the messenger platforms themselves. So people are already on the platforms, and you can reach to all of these messenger users, like 1 million Facebook Messenger users.
Well, there is a difference between virtual assistants and bots, though, and a lot of times
Yeah,
people expect functionality from your bot that something like Siri or Cortana has, which is much harder to do. So, in terms on the spectrum, it's a bit like saying like we have a website or we have a massive web app, and a chat bot would be a website, whereas like a virtual assistant would be something like Facebook or LinkedIn, much more complex, much more functionality, and much more
yeah.
intelligence behind it as well. How do you see the difference? Maybe talk about that later a bit more. But how do you see the numbers coming in? Do you see like there's more people from Skype, more people from Facebook, more people from Line?
Yes. I looked up, especially for you, the usage numbers, and currently, so depending on the platform, you get different demographic data of a user. On Facebook, you get also some demographic data like a gender or a locale or a time zone, in contrast to Skype, where you only get a user name. And but on Facebook, you get quite interesting demographic data, and we have 57% male Facebook users, and most of them, 25%, are between aged 25 and 35. Uh, yeah, and we have 75, about 75%. So three fourth of the users are from the Skype platform. And this is because we were featured on Skype, and we haven't been featured yet on Facebook. So maybe Facebook should also feature us.
Okay, they should. Um, Isn't that a kind of a privacy or security issue? I mean, are people aware how much data a bot that you just chat with on Facebook gets of you? I mean, with apps you get the permissions model, which is super annoying, but also it means it should be a shocking system to people saying like, do you know how much information you give away? I mean, we had My2 the last few days that gives you full access to the phone for putting some filters on your face. So obviously these interfaces don't work either. But it seems like people are very likely to chat to a bot and not realizing that they're giving a lot
Mm,
of information away and a lot of that they're being profiled by a bot.
exactly. The nature of the conversation is very private due to the platform itself. Usually, you talk to your friends on these messenger platforms, so you have very intimate conversations. Now, chatbots come into this field, and people are not aware of all the data they share. Usually. A chatbot implementation is a backend service that is connected, like listens in between the user conversation and the Facebook server itself. So it's a webhook where the messages are forwarded. So, and when you also use other tools for natural language processing or understanding, these services also listen to the conversation you have. So there are a lot of a bunch of parties involved in the conversation in a way. So and also when with all the data or the text a user shares with the chatbot, you can also create personality profiles. Especially on Skype, we see that there are lots of teenagers there texting because depending on what they write, you can make some meta analysis for it, and also distinguish something like or sentiment analysis. What the people are, and this is also could be used for profiling. So I think every single user should decide him or herself what she or he texts to a bot, but always have it's. I think everyone should decide it's him or herself, but always keep in mind that maybe it's not a person
So
you
how
write.
important do you think the persona of a bot is? Do you think people are more likely to talk to a cool cat than to talk to a find restaurants in your area bot? Do you think that people give more information to these bots because they think they are a certain persona?
So I think that the virtual person and its character is the key to the success of a chatbot. So the personality of a chatbot is the key to the commonness of the usage of the service. So it's really like the USP or its secret sauce. Otherwise, you can just use any other interface to a service like the website or call a call center agent. Um, Also, what I personally think that our usage statistics show that Meta receives of this. Until now, it was 650K incoming requests. Only 150K resulted in the number one use case, meaning discover venues. So that's approximately 20% of the requests. What do the other 80% want? They want to talk to the cats. So they start like meowing to the cat, and the cat meows back. And or when you write purr, the cat purrs and sends you an audio file with a purr and something like that. So this is why the people use Mita the hipster catbot, because they like the entertainment. Some people also write something like "I'm bored, entertain me" or something like that. So there's also a learning from our side with creating a chatbot, because the first assumption was that you can easily replace or maybe replace a call center, but we figure out that people are texting far more personally with the cats or with the chatbot. So they write something like, "How are you?" or "I love you. Do you want to marry me?" And when you would call a call center agent, you would maybe swear when you don't when you're not satisfied with the service, but you would not say something like meow or marry me or
Well,
I hate you. Okay, maybe I hate you.
well, it's
But
mostly a legal issue if you did, and
yeah.
like the marry me is a weird one. So, what is the most bizarre conversation you've ever seen somebody have with Mika? Is there
Oh,
something that really stood out?
oh, there are lots of really strange conversations, and actually there are very many conversations. So I cannot obviously not keep track on every single one. But what's interesting is that the people really have a full conversation from hello, how are you is the most common phrase, or first is hi or a greeting, hi, hello are the most common words, and then comes very frequently, how are you? And I this is also a learning that I would not ask a call center agent how she or he is at the moment. Yeah, I'm not interested in that because this is a representative of a service. But the people ask a chatbot, something like that. My personal opinion is because it is a personal medium, because you use the Facebook Messenger or Skype or so, these platforms you use for personal conversation, intimate conversations. And interesting is that people step through a conversation from hello, how are you? Then Mita guides you through, send me your location and I send you some interesting venues. Through a thank you or something like that until a bye. So this is the more interesting part, that people are really satisfied talking to the cat.
So you would say that a bot creation, the success of a bot, is more of a writing or even acting skill or persona generation skill than a technical skill. The technical
Yes,
things should of course work, but the personality of your bot makes people interact with it and makes it more of a success.
absolutely. So our findings show that that conversation is the key. Not really. I mean, this like because in a chatbot the functionality is enfolded in or encapsulated in the conversation, and it reveals it naturally through a conversation. So you have to design the conversation so that the people feel comfortable there, that they use the service, and that they come back, because we also see that the retention rate is, in contrast to other bots, very high. And this is because people enjoy a conversation with the cat. Um, so the technical implementation is obviously part of the game, but technically speaking, it's a backend service with a natural language understanding or processing engine in between. You can also enrich it with some AI stuff because there are lots of tools there, but I don't think that AI is the key to chatbots because, as you already mentioned, virtual assistants like Siri and Google and Alexa is doing that very good. And to accomplish such a high level of performance in a virtual assistant, you have to like invest a lot of time and a lot of money. But chatbots are in they should also entertain you in a way or create an interesting personality that you come back.
So would you say this is one of the main challenges when it comes to bots? Is it the main when you build it the first time, or is it the maintenance and the keeping up of the persona and the keeping up with new functionality and new quirky answers? Is that the main challenge when you run it? Can you just build a bot and let it run free and make money, or do you have to keep changing it as well?
Yeah, I think it's both. Like the concept is very important that you define the service and the use cases, but you have to keep up with all the new features. Since the chatbot platforms, the messenger platforms that offer chatbot support are some of them are in beta and other are still changing a lot. So you have to keep up with the new features that messenger platforms themselves offer. So maintenance is not only from the API part is very important, but also you have to check what people are writing with the chatbot, because it could happen that you design a chatbot for this number one use case, but people are using it in a different way, and then you have to react also to this. Or that you attract a certain group of people that you haven't anticipated, and you should also react to something like that. That was also the reason why at the beginning, when I created Mita, the hipster chatbot, I always was reading the logs and was also catching up with new words or phrases people used. So maintenance is still a big issue, but I personally think that when you stop developing software, it instantly dies. So you have to keep up all the time.
So, I mean, that was a success of Twitter as well. I mean, hashtags, Follow Friday, all these functionalities came from the community themselves. Twitter hadn't thought of that, and they just implemented it then. So how hard or easy is it to add new functionality to a chatbot? And if you do you tell people about it, or do you rely on word of mouth that people find it themselves?
So new functionality can be added similar to developing any other backend service or app. For new features, you can use notifications to inform your users about new features. But be careful with notifications, otherwise you get blocked or like categorized as spam, and people won't come back to you. You can also notifications are also very good for retention, that you get the users back into your chatbot again. But you can also use ads like Facebook ads, for instance, or other advertisement platforms to promote your chatbots, or use also your internal Facebook page. Like Mita has a Facebook page and also a web page where we announce certain things.
So, what did you use to build the bot? Did you build it directly on a web platform, or on Facebook's platform, or and Skype's platform, or did you use a Meta framework to build for all of them at the same time? Because most of those have other features and have other ways of building with. So, does it make sense to build on top with a library, or do you target the platforms directly?
At the moment, at the moment, there are many different frameworks already available, but we started so early, we haven't had any probable framework, so I created kind of my own framework for that. So Mita is, I already mentioned it, a backend service, so it's a REST interface, and I programmed it in Java because I'm most familiar with Java, and so it's a Tomcat REST service living on an Amazon EC2 instance. So and it kind of grew over time, because first I started with the Facebook Messenger implementation, then started with Skype, and with all the other implementations and platforms or channels, I also programmed it in a more generic way that I can now integrate easily or more easy other platforms. So I kind of iteratively and not really intentionally created my own framework. Yeah, but at the moment there are lots of other frameworks you can use to create chatbots. There are Howdy, for instance. They created a Node.js framework, and there are lot of other frameworks, also some conversational frameworks where you don't need programming skills where you can design just the conversations on a bot.
Of course, a catbot would run on Tomcat. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with abuse and with censorship? Are there any instances where people try to make the bot say things it shouldn't say, or have there things been posted that should not be in your logs? Is there anything in your platform to allow you for doing that? Do you automate that, or do it by hand?
Yeah, since chatbots are quite new, area, people try to find the boundaries of your chatbot. What do you react to, or copy paste some documents into the text window. So I get a lot of spam, kind of, or so nonsense data I also receive from the users. And well, censorship is not the right term. Meta does not react to certain data when you just send it to her. Generally speaking, there are two different approaches for chatbots. The one is a rule-based chatbot where you just check common words. And the other one is a more natural language processing and machine learning approach. And Meta is more the first part, because I check different words or key phrases, something like that. So there is no machine learning integrated, so nothing like Microsoft's Tay can happen here.
So, do you have users of various backgrounds and languages? And does that pose an issue? Are the chat platforms right now, I mean, you built it yourself, but is it understanding various languages, slang terms? And do you think bots are ready for these international audiences? Especially also talking to, when you write a bot for a teenage audience, they use different language than a bot, for example, people that use the web as a normal platform.
Exactly. Currently, we only support English. It would make sense when you launch on more exotic platforms like WeChat to translate it to Chinese or to Mandarin, or when you launch online that you translate it to Tagalog, because in the Philippines chatbots are a huge thing, or to translate it to Japanese. But currently, Meta only supports English, what makes it a little bit more easy, since also the natural language processing tools are usually better in understanding English. Teenagers in the United States are a really interesting group of people, and we have a root word dictionary, and I always have to extend it to new words. So I'm learning root language of American teenagers at the moment.
What I learned when I worked at search engines was also that when you had a root language detection thing, you always have to make sure that it's at the word boundaries and not in the middle of a word. Because it's very easy to censor something or to not react to something that isn't rude at all, although it contains the word that in itself would be rude. So language is quite fascinating that way there. So what would you love to make your bot do next? What do you think is the feature that no bot network allows you to do yet, but you really, really would like to have? Where should this go?
Most of the messenger platforms have very limited UX elements there. Usually, you should also concentrate on text itself, like really people are writing text. But the next features I'm going through, and this is also available on the platforms, is speech to text, and what would also be very interesting, text to speech translations. So I would really like to give the cats a voice, and because I haven't decided yet on how the voice should really sound, because cats are not so good in speaking really English, but this is something where you can develop a bot in.
It's weird because, I mean, the platform themselves have it. I mean, the web platform has speech synthesis now, using the W3C standard. But it seems like there is a competition between companies' bot systems or chat systems and companies' own personal assistants. So they don't want your bot to be a competition to Siri or to M or whatever, or maybe even Cortana, because integrating with those services would make much more sense than trying to shoehorn this functionality into a chat platform. So that's why it's interesting. I mean, Facebook just put, for example, their Messenger interface into the web thing yesterday. That was kind of weird that you now have the same interface on your mobile and on a massive screen. And it seems like they just did that so you don't have double maintenance. So that might be something that these platforms are thinking about. So the speech input should work in most of the cases, but it then takes a long time to convert it, and then you don't convert it on the phone itself. You have to go through a service to do it because the machine is just not strong enough for that one. So what are the day-to-day maintenance tasks for a bot? Is it more a build it and react to people's content, or are there day-to-day technical things that you have to be aware of when you run a successful bot?
Yeah, what you really have to keep up doing is to check the latest API changes, because the Kik version of Mita was broken because Kik introduced a new field in their API, and I was not aware of that. So the Kik version of Mita was offline a couple of days. So the APIs change a lot, and you also always have to keep up with the new user experience gadgets they offer. For instance, for Facebook Messenger, you have a menu you can use, or buttons. They introduced a new list. So it's interesting to play around with all these different UX elements. Also, you have to check all your logs constantly if there is maybe an interesting new phrase or term that was not yet matched to a response. And it's virtually not possible to do it with machine learning, because we people are more capable of finding interesting phrases than a machine would do. So you have to do it manually.
If you were asked by somebody who wanted to do his own bot what the main things to think about are, what are like the 3 steps that you say, like, okay, if I had done that in the beginning, I would have not wasted a lot of time. What were the things to think about when you want to get your own bot out? Is it the platform? Is it the persona? We talked about it a bit before. What are the main success factors that you think people should put most of their effort in?
First of all, you should think about, with any other service also, like for websites or for apps, about the USP. It should be something unique. It should add a value to a customer experience. And also you have to decide on whether your target group more is, when your target group is younger. Maybe in the United States, like H&M has a bot on the Kik platform. This is a good approach. Or also for Asian countries, you have to pick another platform. And I think that creating a personality itself, a character, and maybe make it a little bit funny, or maybe work with gamification, something like that, or this is think of the user story themselves when you create a chatbot.
Well, thanks very much. That's lots of good insight for people. Do you have any final thoughts? Do you have any questions for our audience that they could help you with? Do you want some help with something?
Help. Currently, we are planning a bot camp, a bar camp in Vienna about bots. So I would love from people to maybe come to Vienna and join us at a bar camp for bots. It's called the Bot Camp Vienna. So we plan it for March, April, and we would love to have some interesting talks or people there.
Well, thanks very much. That was, we see what we can do, if we can send people over to Vienna for that. Talk about the bot network, maybe. So I guess we will see you online, and we will talk to your cat. How much of Mika is you, and how much of you is Mika?
Yeah, this is like we are mingling in each other. So yeah, Mita was created based on my cat at home, Mita. So this is also like my real cat at home, and she is nice and polite, and sometimes a little bit annoying, meaning notifications. But she's a cute cat, and yeah. I mean, it's my cat, so I also like her for being like that.
Excellent. Thank you very much.